Imagine a moment when you are stranded in the middle of a vast ocean, where there is nothing but water all around. No support, no shore in sight. Just you and your tiny boat with nothing to eat or drink. The threat of shark attacks, facing maritime storms, and the uncertainty of how death might come knocking at your door with almost no hope of survival. It all feels like a nightmare. Welcome back to another spine-chilling episode, where today we are going to talk about a man who spent 438 days adrift in the Pacific Ocean and managed to survive. But what happened to him after he returned? We'll uncover this in today's video. Just hearing the name Pacific Ocean makes people break out in a sweat. You see, 71% of the Earth's surface is covered by water, divided into 5 oceans: Indian Ocean, Atlantic Ocean, Pacific Ocean, Arctic Ocean, and Southern Ocean. The largest of these is the Pacific Ocean. It's so vast that it could swallow up the entire landmass. If we combine all the landmasses of Earth, the Pacific Ocean is still 3 times larger. There are only a few islands scattered across this ocean, and many of them are so small and remote that no human has ever set foot on them. If someone were to get lost in the Pacific Ocean, finding them would be nearly impossible. But the man who survived for 14 months in the Pacific Ocean was José Salvador Alvarenga. He had a small 7-foot boat on which he couldn't even lie down properly. Despite this, he managed to stay alive on this tiny boat for over a year, braving the harshness of the sea and setting a world record that no one else has been able to break to this day. José Salvador Alvarenga, a 36-year-old expert fisherman from a southern coast of Mexico, who made a living by catching fish from the Pacific Ocean to support his family. Just like any other day, on November 17, 2012, from Costa Azul, Jose went out to sea with his friend Ezequiel Córdoba to fish. The boat they were using for fishing was only 7 feet long. It had no roof or any enclosed space. They planned a 2-day fishing trip, equipped with some basic supplies and fishing gear. It was powered by a small motor. Both fishermen were already aware that a storm was approaching, but they still decided to venture into the ocean for fishing. They took the risk and headed out into the Pacific Ocean, 120 kilometers away from the shore. Late night, at 1 a.m., they were caught in the storm. The fishing nets they had set up were cut and left in the ocean, and they started steering the boat towards the shore. For 6 hours, they continuously navigated the boat towards the shore and were only 24 kilometers away, close enough to see the peaks of the mountains on land. But then the motor that powered the boat broke down. However, the radio on the boat was still working, and they used it to relay their location to their boss. Their boss said he was coming to rescue them, but soon the radio battery also died, and it went off. Imagine how frustrated they must have felt, unable to steer the boat and losing contact with the outside world. The land was close, and they could even see their village, but the wind blowing in the opposite direction started drifting their boat away from the shore. Gradually, their village disappeared from sight, and their boat began drifting into the deep ocean. Their boss sent a search team to find him, and they tried searching for both of them for 4 days, but they were nowhere to be found. Eventually, their boss gave up the search. In just 5 days, the wind currents had drifted them 450 kilometers away from the shore. All they could see in every direction was the vast blue ocean, and in such a large expanse of water, their boat was so small that it was impossible to spot from the sky. They didn't have a flare gun, nor could they create smoke signals to call for help. Jose and his companion knew very well that their chances of survival were not even 1%. The food and water they had brought with them had already run out, so they started catching birds that landed on their boat or fish that swam nearby and ate them raw. Drinking seawater can lead to death, so they began collecting rainwater in plastic bottles that floated in the ocean. However, when it didn't rain for several days, they quenched their thirst by drinking the blood of fish and turtles, and that too, only when they could catch them. 4 months passed in this manner, but no one had found them yet. After 4 months, Jose's friend Córdoba lost hope of survival and stopped eating and drinking, which weakened his body. Córdoba became so frail that he eventually died. Just thinking about the time Jose must have endured is frightening. Now, Jose was alone in the vast Pacific Ocean. For days after his friend's death, Jose also lost hope and considered suicide. However, he somehow mustered the courage and continued to fight for his life in any way he could. Now, as you can see on a map, Jose was somewhere in the middle of the ocean in an area where ships rarely pass by. After nearly 8 months, a cargo ship finally passed through that area. Jose stood up and tried to signal, but the ship sailed straight by and no one noticed him. Just imagine how Jose must have felt at that moment, having waited for months for that one chance, only to have it slip away as the ship continued without noticing him. He was left alone in the ocean once again. Consider the level of frustration he must have experienced. In 11 months, Jose had traveled 8,000 kilometers in his tiny boat, facing blistering heat and storms along the way. On January 30th, 2014, he spotted coconuts floating in the water and birds flying in the sky, indicating that land was nearby. He managed to reach an island by jumping off his boat and swimming to shore. After 438 days at sea, he was finally on solid ground. On the island, he saw a house and managed to reach it, marking one of the most beautiful moments after so many months of isolation. If he had missed this island, he would have had to travel another 5,000 kilometers to find land, which would have taken him another 240 days. After being rescued, Jose was sent back home, but upon his return, another challenge awaited him. He published a book titled 438 Days, but he was sued by the family of his deceased companion, Córdoba, who accused him of causing his friend's death. Despite the controversy, Jose set a record that no one would want to break. That's it for this video. If you found it helpful, please give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more content like this.